Welcome to episode 11 of Shipp's Tips. Now on this episode I've brought you to a fantastic fishery. It's called Manor Farm Leisure near Evesham. Now today I've brought you here to catch in the margins, but with a bit of a twist really. We've had sort of 3 or 4 nights now where the temperatures have gone down to sort of 8-9 degrees, and that makes a big difference, especially on venues like Manor Farm. There's a lot of F1s, there's also a lot of big carp. One thing I've noticed just getting here this morning, a lot of the big carp are sort of swimming around shallow because I'm actually in a t-shirt, but obviously the nighttime temperatures dropping, that makes a difference. Obviously, when it was really warm a couple of weeks ago, you can catch in 2 foot, 18 inches. And I'm sure that will happen today, but we're going to have to give it time. They're not going to come in that shallow water straight away, especially on this venue. And I've also set up another rig, which is in 3 foot of water. And that's what you've got to sort of think about when you go out this time of year, end of September, you know, start of September, when it's sort of the temperatures drop during the night. You might not catch in that shallow water down the edge. You might have to come away from the bank. And that's what we're going to do today on this episode. So let's get back. I'll run you through all the bait and all the tackle that I've made up for today. Bait for today is really simple. I'm going to start off with just the pellets I've got today. I've actually soaked some 4mm Fin Perfect pellets up. Now I've soaked them because, like I did in the intro, it is important that when these water temperatures start to drop, if you just soak your pellets lightly, even your bigger pellets, I think it just makes a big difference to the amount of fish that you catch. So what I've done with them, I've got them straight out of the bag. I've put water on them and I've literally left them probably a few seconds and I've drained them off. They've been on my side tray now for about 45 minutes because we've not started yet, and they're not actually soft all the way through, but you can just tell they've just started the breaking down process, and I think that's an absolute must, like I said, when the water temperature drops. So that's 4 mils. I think the most important thing today, especially fishing away from the bank in this 3 foot depth of water, is micros. So I've got a bag again of 2mm Fin Perfects, beautiful pellets, and I've put the same amount of water as what there is pellets in that container. So I've put the pellets in and I've filled that container up with water, literally a couple of mil over top the pellets, and like I said, left them again for about 45 minutes. And you can see them now. They've all blown up. They're absolutely perfect. And I think in that sort of deeper water off the margin, it's going to be mega important that you have micro pellets. And I've done a whole bag of them. That's a kilo, because I will be putting some bait in. Another really important bait, not just this time of year, but wherever you go carp fishing or F1 fishing or even skimmer fishing, is corn. I've got one tin of F1 corn. I've got a couple more tins of me as well. And what I like about this corn is it's got those tiny little bits in. And believe you me, with these tricky F1s at this time of year, them tiny little pieces can be absolutely dead. They'll pick those little bits out, and sometimes they won't pick the big bits of corn up. So it's really important you have them sort of different sized bits of corn. So that's the corn. One thing I have mixed up, I've mixed up half a bag of my favourite ground bait, match method mix. I can use that on a method. I use it on most of my fishing, to be honest. Anything to do with carp and F1s, you can't go wrong. Well, I've mixed half a bag of that up. It's just damp, it's just nice. But this is basically, I think, obviously we've not started yet, so I'm not too sure what's going to happen, but I think I'm going to be putting this in the sort of shallower line to get the fish going. Whether that's going to be earlier in the session or late on, well, I'm not too sure yet. That's what these sort of videos are all about. And that's it. It's nice and simple. The only other thing I've got is I've got some Pro hookable expanders. Not sure whether we're going to get bitted out yet. I don't think it's gone cold enough maybe to stop the silverfish coming in the edges, but we'll see how we go. But they're brilliant pellets. I can put them on, they'll stay on a hook, you know, shipping out, even if I strike, as long as I don't strike too hard, they will stay on. So I've got them already done, easy as you like. I'll now run you through the 2 rigs that I've made up for today. Like I said, I think today's going to be really important about depths of water, where you fish at certain times of the day. So I've set up 2 rigs to cover that. Elastic wise, 13 Dura Slip. It's one of my favourite elastics. It's great for whether you're catching big F1s. If you hook a great big carp, yeah, it's going to stretch, but I think it's perfect for today. Medium cab pot on there, so I can put quite a lot of micros in, obviously some corn, and if I come into the edge later on in the day, I can put ground bait in, or I've got my big pot as well set up. 017 reflow power mainline. I've got a 4B12 carp shallow, nice tip. You can obviously see it, you can dot it down. And this is my shallower of the 2 rigs. This is like just over 2 foot. And at the moment, I've got a simple bulk of stots and a 6-inch hook length of 015 reflow power down to a size 14 XSH. So obviously, when I come into that shallower water, I'm hoping that I can catch some of the bigger carp in here, and I've obviously got the best chance of getting them out. But I don't want to go OTT on it, because I don't want to miss out on the big F1s. The F1s in this lake are huge. They average probably £3. So, you know, you obviously, this time of year, they're still going to fight. So I've got the right lines and hooks ready for it. The second rig is the 3 foot. I've actually measured this. It's about 3 foot deep. Exactly the same elastic, medium cab pot. I've got a 4B14 carp shallow float on there, because we are fishing in deeper water, and it's really important sometimes when you're fishing for these F1s, you can just have a bulk and just lower it into those micros, and you get them on. You know, that's really important. But if I wanted to, I could get the stots and sort of string them out a little bit, so I can get a foot, sort of a nice fall on the hook length, so the hook bait. I don't know what's going to happen yet, so I've just bulked everything up just to keep it simple. 017 again, main line. There's my little bulk like that of stots. Obviously got a few more stots on this one because it's a 4B14 float, and down to an 013. I've opted for an 013 hook length down to a 16 GPM, because I just think I'm going to be starting the session. I want to fish a little bit lighter. I can always change if I need to. It's just because of these F1s. That's what's in my mind. So I'm going to start now and run you through everything that I'm going to be doing. Well, I'm just going to start now. Now I'm going to just try a piece of corn on the hook at the start. So I'm going to get a nice little bit of that F1 corn, nice little chunky bit. And I'm sure it's going to take a little bit of time before we get going, but you can still be quite positive even with the micros. So I've got a medium cab pot on there. I'm literally just going to fill that up and just thumb it in just slightly, because I want them, when we turn the pot over, I want them to go down as like just a whole sort of unit of micros really. So nice and easy to start, little bulk, really simple. Let's get down the edge. So I've marked myself up with a hedge on the other side. It's really, because on this venue it's really shallow right in. It's literally a few inches deep, and it just slowly but surely goes down. It's like pebbles on the bottom. So I've tried to find 2 areas at them 2 different depths where, yeah, I can feel the odd little stone, but then it's like quite flat, and that's what I've looked for. I've used a 20 gram plummet so I can feel all the bottom. Got myself marked up, and let's get going. And I'm fishing a little bit further away as well today. I've gone 11.5 meters. It's a nice length, and I can just get myself marked up, drop that pot on, and you can see the micros come out. As long as you don't push them in too hard, you can literally drop the micros on the surface, and they all go down as a bit of a clump. And there's other options, you know, if I get bitted out a little bit, I can always put a hard pellet on. I've got that option. I've got all my hook lengths with me. I've got my GPMs with bands and that on, if we do get bitted out. And just hope these big F1s, or there's a little skimmer straight away then. At least we've had a bite. And this sort of fishing can change like instantly. You can go from maybe getting a few odd bites to absolutely sacking up. And I'm not going to mess around. Every time I go down there, I'm going to be putting some bait in. But just thumb your micros in like that. And because they've been soaked all the way through, they're sort of quite fluffy. So they come out the pot easy. And them little cab pots have actually got holes in the bottom of the pot. And that's exactly for what I'm doing today. If you watch now, I can literally put the pot on the water. They won't come out. I do that, and they come out easily like that. I said I'm quite a way off the bank on this venue to find that depth of water. Other venues might be slightly different. But they are big F1s in this venue, big proper boys. Brilliant fishing though when you can catch these great big F1s. They are like carp. Might have to take one of me little adjustment shot off. That's why I have these. Oh, that was a nice little indication then. That's why I always have a couple of adjustment shots, some 12 stots on there. If your float's sort of a little bit too dotted down, you can take one or two of them off and get your float perfect. You don't need to strike really hard either. I mean, if you watch me strike, even a few little indications that I've had already, probably little fish like that, you don't need to strike their brains out. You know, you can just, a nice little lift, you don't get your hook bait off. That's the beauty with corn. Corn and hard pellets are great. There's a little, I think that's a skimmer. That's brilliant. At least we've had a couple of bites straight away. Even if you go onto like a mixed fishery like this is really, you can catch a massive weight of skimmers, even bream fishing in sort of different depths. Nice skimmer. And they'll eat loads of bait then. Put another bit of corn on. I can just feel that as soon as that sun goes in today, you can feel the temperature. Give that a little thumb in again. It's amazing if you get your micros dead right. So you can turn that pot over, touch the water, and they're out. So turn it over, just touch the water like that, and they're out. Perfect. Just drop that piece of corn. Follow them micros down. There you are. Straight away, another little skim I think. And we're just building it up now. Another little hand-sized skimmer. You can have to go through some bait. You think that, you know, that's a kilo of micros in there with a small, you know, medium cab pot on. You'd be amazed how many micros you can go through doing this, because it is quite busy fishing. So you get them right, you can just touch the water and they're straight out of the pot. There's no tapping on your pole or anything like that. Well, I've had a nice little start down there. I've had a few nice skimmers up to about a pound, 2 F1s, just on corn. So I'm just going to get, all I've done this last sort of 20 minutes is I felt there was a few fish off the bottom, even them skimmers. I've just got me stots and sort of spaced them out a little bit. And I have a couple of nice skimmers actually just like lowering it in, but they're still on that 3 foot line at the moment. So I'm just obviously keep potting in. If I don't get a bite pretty quick, I'm actually bringing my pole back and filling the pot back up. But I've also started introducing a few 4mm in my pot as well, because that's what I just felt. I thought with the skimmers and that feeding at the moment, perhaps just introducing a few hard 4mm might just help sort of get a few bigger fish in me peg. But it's lovely, you know, just see me float, absolutely beautiful there. There's a few indications, like I said, I've still got that option of putting a hard pellet on. If these little fish do become, you know, more of a nuisance, I've got my hook length boxes there. I can just put a hard pellet on, it's not a problem at all. It takes seconds. There we go, another little skimmer. That was a beautiful bite as well. Only a little skimmer this time. I've had a few of these. Beautiful fish though, just on that 3 foot. But what I'm looking for really is, as we go along, I'll introduce a little bit of bait in that shallower water. But I've had no really problems with foul looking yet. If I start foul looking fish on this, I'm just introducing a few 4mm in my pot and then filling it up with those 2mm like that. Not actually fed any corn yet. Just thought I'd stick with this for a bit and see how we go. So just get yourself marked up with your far bank marker. Try and drop that corn just over the top, let it all go down. And just be nice and patient. And some venues you go to, fishing, where probably a lot of people wouldn't, can catch you a massive amount of fish. I go to like a lot of carp venues and you come off the bank a bit. I mean, especially earlier in the match, maybe not sort of right at the end, fishing in that slightly deeper water, you can catch an absolute load of fish. And I think 3 foot, if you go to a venue that you can find that depth, I think it's a great depth to fish in. I'm not sure why, it just seems to be right. So just lift and drop that. You never know, you might catch one on the drop, or a big cruiser carp which is coming in. Ooh, look at that. But I think this will just get better and better. And then hopefully, if I time it right, we can go down, you know, I'll feed a little bit of bait in close. And hopefully we can catch some bigger carp later on. But it's not too bad, not getting bit out. Like I said, some of the skimmers are real nice size, and that's what I said to you, you can catch some huge weights of skimmers in bream fishing in like 3 foot of water. And sometimes they won't go up into that sort of 18 inches. And that's what's going through my mind at the moment. You know, do I try hard pellet? Do I just stick with corn? Do I introduce a bit of corn? There's all them sort of things that you can try. At the moment, I'm just trying to stick with messing around with me 2 mils and me 4 mils. Ooh, that's a nice little bite. Struck the corn off that time. Let's try a bigger piece of corn. And the art of this is just to keep feeding, to get the fish going. And then when I get the fish going, I can sort of vary what I'm doing. And these sort of venues, like such as Manor Farm, this can turn on. You can go from like very little to absolutely getting one every single chuck. And let's hope, you know, hopefully that's what will happen today. There's some right big carp in these lakes as well. You know, big F1s, big carp, obviously lots of skimmers. There you go. Lovely little bite then. Little, one of those fast dinks that I've always spoke about. I'm not sure what that is. Feels like an F1. Yeah, nice F1. Try and keep your pole nice and low. Didn't really steam off that one like the other ones that I've caught. The other ones I've caught have literally gone off like great big carp. But they're fantastic. That's actually a small stamp F1 for this place. Lovely. So, you know, it's only been going for 45 minutes or something like that. Look at that, great big Manor Farm F1. They are proper chunky in here. Perfectly hooked. Just check your shot. Like I always say. I said I got that strung out a little bit, but you can just have a little bulk. Once the fishing gets better, I'm sure we can sort of bulk it. But at least with it sort of stretched out a little bit, it feels like you can lift it out and drop it in. You might nick 1 or 2 on the drop. So I put a few more 4 mils in that time, sort of 24 mils, and then just capped it off with 2 mils. And what you've got to remember is today it's like real flat calm, so that's not helping matters either. That's something else you've got to think about when you go to a venue and you think, you know, shall I come away from the bank for a little bit? So because it's flat calm, I'm sure if the wind was hacking into this corner, they would go into shallower water a lot quicker. Oh yes, that's what we want. So that was literally drop that in, whack, drop me corn on top. Great way of fishing, love it. Another big F1. Yes, that's the stamp. That's the stamp we want. Great big things. I would say that's probably the average size. You can't even get your hand around them. Look at that. Stunning fish, aren't they? Absolutely beautiful. Said, just thinking about what I'm doing with my pellets, introducing a few 4 mils. Might have to change as we go along. We're just going to stick with that for a bit. Nice chunky bit of corn. Said 25 little 4 mils like that, something like that. I don't count them out, obviously. Little tab micros over the top. Just tap them in first, and then just hook bait over the top, and then real concentrate. That was a micro bite, that was. I thought it might have been a little skimmer, that. there's a lot of venues you go to now, a lot of people, including myself, say, you know, I've struggled to catch the fish down the edge today in shallow water. That's the time to come away from the bank like I'm doing today, and that can make a massive difference. There's a lot of venues now, they're so educated, especially big carp, and you need to come away from the bank. If you can actually see the fish, you struggle to catch the fish a lot of the time. So coming away from the bank, fishing slightly deeper water, and I think a lot of people miss out because of that. They always want to fish in like really shallow water. They see all the tails and that. It looks fantastic, but sometimes they're really, really difficult to catch. So it's just worth trying, doing what I'm doing, away from the bank. Oh, that was a nice bite. There is an odd little skimmer there. There's definitely a few little skimmers there as well. But I'm not just going to sit there and wait for a bite either. I want to come back, feed. Just going to come back. A couple of indications then. Come back and feed again. So it's not lazy fishing this, you've got to keep working. Always reminds me of fishing like a method feeder. You can leave it there so long until you've got to wind it back in and feed again. And that's the same principle as this. You sort of get, it feels like you get an opportunity to get one. If not, you've got to come back, feed again. There we go, classic example. Couldn't have got better at that. So sat there, had a couple of indications last chuck, come back, fed again, and got one within sort of 15 seconds of dropping the rig in. They're beautiful. I measure it, everything's measured, you know, I carry like a, or measure it on your foot plate, different depths. It all makes a big difference. Steady. Look at him. Like peas in a pod, big chunky things. Check your shot about, your stots, because they do move about, which is obviously get on the rim of the landing net. Check them. Just got them said strung out a little bit. You can always bolt them up later on. So just go through the same motions here. Sort of 25, 34 mils. Little cap of micros. Tap them in slightly to the right of where I'm fishing and drop your bait over the top. There's a little indication then, so you don't know if it's an F1 or a skimmer. Whew. I think I know what that was. Oh, look at that tiny little bite. Now that little bite then was exactly what I had on the off the last F1. So, and it is literally, it's like someone's flicked your line. And it's changed at the moment. When I started off, there was a few skimmers, Some nice skimmers, to be fair, but you can sense that last sort of half an hour for me. You're sort of sitting there, you're not getting so many sort of little tiny indications. You're sort of sitting there a little bit longer. And that, hopefully, that's where the bigger fish are moving in. Look at that. I should have had that. But you do miss a lot of bites off F1s. You know, they're so crafty. That might be a little fish back. But don't worry about it. You know, just keep going through the motions. Ooh, I'm going to come back and feed again in a minute. So don't just sit there. You get into a nice little rhythm of shipping in and out. Not seeing any signs of any swirling or anything like that. There we go. Brilliant. So that's, again, come back, feed a bit of bait, and I've hooked a carp. I think that's a carp this time. It feels like a good one as well, that. So that 13 Dura slip, beautiful for this sort of fishing when you're catching all sorts. And if you do catch a great big unit, you know, you've got the power in the elastic, even though it's going to stretch. You still get control of it with the puller in. Like I said, just treat it like I've done with the method feeder ones. You know, don't just sit there. You've got to wind back in. You've got to, you know, load your feeder back up again. There are some absolute pigs swimming around today, you know, because it's a nice sunny day. I've seen some right big units swimming around, and just hopefully as we go along we'll catch a few. But that was literally, dropped it in less than 10 seconds, I would say, after feeding. Look at that, lovely. Ooh, yes. Not happy. Oh, lovely mirror, that. So only on 013, that line. It's quite capable of getting these fish in. Ooh. That's what we want. Try and hold him up. It's a beautiful fish, that. So just fishing in that 3 foot to start with. It's taken about an hour or so. But if these boys start turning up, we're going to have a fantastic day. Look at that. Manor Farm at his best. Let's get him back. Well, I've just tried a few things. I've tried putting little balls in of micros and 4 mils, but that I caught 1 or 2 F1s doing that. But I just feel at the moment, I think I'm going to try and get one. I've had a few more in liners, little funny indications. I reckon it's that time of day now where these fish might want to go into shallow water. So I'm going to try and have one more chuck here. and I'm going to feed up into that sort of 2 foot water. Yeah, look at that, that was straight away. Absolutely bang on the money, that. Drop me bait in. Lovely fish, you know. It's been absolutely brilliant up to now. I've caught loads of skimmers, F1s, some nice carp. But I feel I've just had more indications that this last 15 minutes, it's like they're coming off the bottom for the bait that I'm putting in. So I'm just going to try them. I'm not going to put a lot of bait in. I'm just going to put like a handful of micros, a handful of 4 mils, sort of in that shallower water line. And I think they tell you some days, you know, if you start foul looking fish, especially if you're fishing down in deeper water like I am at the moment. I think that's another carp. He's not happy. And you can tell the difference at the moment. With that water temperature just gone down a bit, the fish are probably a little bit more, they're not fighting like they were a couple of weeks ago. Although saying that, he's steaming off now. Shouldn't have said that. I've just sensed like the last couple of fish I've caught down there have been off the bottom. It's literally been on the drop. So I do fancy, we ain't got long to go now before I sort of finish the day. Just drop a little bit of bait in shorter. God, I wish I never said that about that fish not waking up. It looks like a nice big comment, nice big mirror again. I said, fish are nice elastic, especially when you come to a venue like it, Manor Farm. Oh yes. With your roller puller in, you know, you can take that from a 13 elastic to a 15 elastic just with a couple of pulls of elastic at the end, and then you can obviously let it run. There's no rush. But that's the best way of doing it as well with your roller. Bring the elastic out, let them 2 fingers do the work of the elastic. Don't wrap it around your hands or anything. I see people doing that. You don't need to do that. Just let that hang down. And then obviously let that slide through your fingers if it starts running. I mean, that's what these videos are all about. It's not just catching fish, it's giving you little tips on how to sort of play the fish. It's definitely woke up now, this fish. Ooh. I've had some fantastic F1s already. But if we can get a few, if we can just fish in that slightly shallower water, we might catch some right big munters. You never know, it might not happen today. This line's been brilliant, this 3 foot line. To be honest, if I was in a match now, I'd be a fool to come off of it. But I probably would just put a little bit of bait in, because if you're going to catch some of the biggest fish in the lake, they probably will be in that slightly shallower water. And always look at the colour of the water. When I got here this morning, I chucked my keep nets in, and I can actually see the end of my keep nets. So, you know, fishing in 3 foot made complete sense. Christ, this thing's woke up. I don't even think it's that big. Like I said, just pull a bit out. Just use your fingers. Same hand as what you're using to hold the pole section. Like that, nice and smooth. Probably a common the way that's fighting. I did see a glance of it and I thought it was a mirror. Oh, that's a nice fish as well, that. It's a bit bigger than what I thought. That is a nice fish. I'll just try and get him to count. But he was straight on that bait as soon as I dropped it in. Come on, Babs. Oh yes, it's not far off of a double, that. There's some absolutely stunning fish in Manor Farm. I mean, these big carp are real crafty. I've watched them a lot of the time of the day, just swimming around. It's definitely what'll make this one count. I've had a few good carp anyway, but it'd be nice to get this one on camera. Right arm's starting to ache. Oh yes. Oh yes, that will do nicely. That's a chunk. That will do. Let's get the hook out of him. Come on, Babs. Let's tang around his fin. Yes. Definitely try and hold this one up. He's an absolute cracker. Got a tail on it. So I'll get this one, just show you this one, get this one back, and then I'm going to feed. Oh, that's definitely probably 12 pound of Manor Farm. Look at that. What an absolute beautiful carp that is. On that 3 foot line, fed a little bit of bait straight on it. Let's get him back before he goes. He's going to flip. And it's not rocket science what I'm doing. Just have a think about, you know, feeding different baits. So I'm just going to get just a small amount of micros, sort of 50-64 mils, because that's what's been the best today. Is those pellets. I'm not going to introduce any ground bait at the moment. So I've got myself marked up at a different part of the far bank, and we'll see what happens. And just carry on with that other line. So corn's been great, but there is an opportunity to, you know, if I've caught a load of skimmers as well, to be fair. I've had a real nice day, you know, skimmers up to 1.5 pounds, some great big F1s. It's been awesome. Nice big piece of corn again. What did I do last time? Run out a few more 4 mils. And you can see from that, we've got a bit of time to go. That's how many micros I've fed. I've fed probably over half of one of those 5 litre bowls. So surprising when you're in and out all the time like I am, even with that little medium cab pot. It's amazing how much bait you can go through. So let's just carry on that line for a little bit and see what happens. I've just seen one come out of there now, one big carp. I said, it's just probably that time of day. Let's just get into that shallower one. So that's like a foot shallower now. And I'm just going to keep it as a simple bulk. I've got a bigger hook on here, heavier hook. Just going to drop a few micros in there, a few 4 mils. And see what happens. Nothing's guaranteed in this sort of fishing. It's probably one of the weird, you know, it's a dodgy, when you've got like I am, I'm quite away, even on that, I'm quite away from the bank. It can be really tricky margins sometimes when you're fishing away from the bank in sort of 18 inches. And you go to these venues sometimes and you drop your bait, you know, you can feed it, you'll see the fish. As soon as you put your rig in, they're gone. You know, not every day that happens like that, but there's venues I go to, you'll see the fish in your peg, you go down there and they're gone. And that's the time to sort of think, right, I've got to go into deeper water. And this could be one of them days. Just because I've seen a sign of a fish there, it don't mean to say that they're going to come back in numbers. It don't mean to say that they're going to come back when you got your rig in the water. They are proper educated, some of these places. And I don't come here, I don't fish matches here. Oh, there you go. Oh, skimmer. That absolutely flew under. Little skimmer. Got absolutely loads of them as well. They're nice little weight builders, sort of 6 ounces. You should get all the slime off. Another big piece of corn. Put a few more 4 mils in. There's obviously the option of putting a big pot of bait in. And what I'll do, if I don't catch on this in the next sort of few minutes, I will I'll just go back on that 3-foot line, put quite a bit of bait and probably put like 3/4 of a pot of bait in on this line and see if I can maybe drag the fish in. There's nothing there at the moment. That one little indication, I've seen that's carp. And they're spooky. Some days, especially with a day like today, no wind, they can come in, they're really spooky because everything's still. There's no cover of any waves or anything on the water. And looking at it at the moment, that 3-foot line was the definite way to go. If I want to set that up, I think I'd have really struggled to catch, especially in the first maybe 3 or 4 hours. I honestly thought after you know, there's obviously fish in the area because I'm catching them 1.5 meters, 2 meters away. But looking at it at the moment, there's a little indication there. Might have been a liner. But I don't want to spend any time there. If I'd have gone in and caught one, you know, you'd be thinking, yeah, here we go. There's nothing. And in a way, I'm glad that's happened for the film, because it just shows you it's not all about fishing in shallow water, especially when you think about the weather. It's on the change. And just fishing slightly different. Can catch you know, a lot of fish. But that is like, I mean, that's a lovely depth as well. You know, you think that when you plumbed up there, normally you'd be thinking that is perfect. And they don't seem to want to come right in. Not a sign, nothing at all. I've got the option, you know, I think what I'm going to do, because there's nothing there, nothing coming in, I'm going to come back and I'm going to just put some ground bait in. I've not done it on that 3-foot line because I don't think it was right. But this 2-foot line, it might be worth just putting like 3/4 of a pot of ground bait in. There's nothing's happening there. So I'm going to put some ground bait in there, just see what happens, see if that will drag them You know, that's the sort of thing that goes through my mind when I'm fishing. That's what these films are about. Let's put like just under a full pot of ground bait in. There you go, that's back on that 3 foot line. I've actually give that go, even potting in that bit of ground bait. I've seen like 2 or 3 carp come in and they are real spooky. I've dropped in there twice, once when we were filming and once after, and you just sit there and nothing happens. And to be fair, it's been perfect for the filming because, like I said, this is what this episode's been about. Fishing sort of away from the bank, and it's been absolutely perfect. It couldn't have got better, to be honest. I mean, we've caught an absolute boatload of fish, but every single one that I've caught has been on this 3 foot line. So I'm going to get this one out and I'm going to call it a day. I've had a fantastic day here at Manor Farm Leisure. Thanks to Dave for letting us obviously come here again, because I don't actually fish matches here, but he always lets us come and do our features and videos and things like that. It's a great fishery. Lovely F1 to finish the day off. Like I said, that's a smaller one really to what's in this lake. Just get the hook out. Bad angling. Got me disgorger down here. Whoa. So I'm going to get him back and let's see what I've caught. Well, there you go. That's just part of what I've caught today. We've got carp in here from probably £9 to £13. I've had loads of F1s. I've not even got my skimmer net out, to be honest. I've probably got £40 of skimmers as well. We've put a lot of these back already, and every single one of these fish on the 3 foot line. So there you go. I hope you've picked up some great tips on how to approach, you know, getting away from the bank. You know, we've all moaned about, we've got the carp in our peg, we can't catch them. Try fishing in slightly deeper water down the margins, and I'm sure you'll catch a net full like this. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next episode.